And I think for a lot of producers right now that are using Splice samples, you don't want to touch them. If you're making your own kicks, you're synthesizing your own kicks, you're using those Foley layers and stuff like that, then yeah, that's when I'll compress. But if I'm ever doing that, I always have a separate session where I make kick drums. Like one day I don't want to make music.
Yeah.
Then I just go in and I make like 1,000 kick drums essentially. I set up like an automated randomized process and then I bounce it out for 20 minutes and then I cut it out. And then I just take my favorites. But that's when I use compression. So yes, I do use it, but not in the track.
Yeah, and one thing too, don't forget, if you want to check out stuff on Splice too, Splice is a great tool for this kind of project. And maybe you get some cool stuff from Splice when you sign up for the Slam Academy Mixing and Mastering course. Just saying, it's definitely something to work into, a lot of added value. Because yeah, I normally do the Splice thing too, whenever I want to find like some very specific samples, but I have a bunch of bleepy bloop machines over to the right of me. And so sometimes I try to synthesize them, but I've actually seen Jack do the thing that he's talking about. And I don't think I have the patience to kind of set that up. And that's not to say anything negative, obviously, but it's
another one of my hats is sample pack creator. So it's like,
yeah. Hey, if you want to learn about how to make sample packs, you could always take the sound design class too, if you haven't already, because the sound design class is something very special. But yeah, so now my compressor, you heard Jack talk about Pro C. I too am a big fan of Pro C, only because it does a lot of different styles. And when I'm doing my first little compressor here, mine is set up in the opto mode. So I'll talk about different types of compressors when we talk about compressors. If you don't know what opto is, it's a light-based compressor. That's all I'm going to say. I want to move forward. So I'm going to hit play here. You can see it's already really hitting super hard in my compressor. And that's sometimes kind of what I'm going for. What I am going to adjust is I'm going to adjust my knee just a little bit harder. Yeah, if you watch my CPU usage, you're gonna see it explode. If you've never seen 400%, you guys are in for a treat. And then I'm gonna roll off on some of this compression. Remember, the gentle squeeze is I'm just going for an amount of compression to just kind of provide a little bit of coherency in the dynamic range of the track. I'm almost using it in like a transient shaper kind of way. If you're not familiar with those terms, I'm essentially trying to keep like the really loud parts. I mean, this is like what Joe said, this is some like, glitchier sound designy bass music stuff. Sometimes what happens is we get these really big peaks that may not even necessarily be obvious until we use something like this. Okay, now that Pro C2 is done, it's time for another EQ. Here is my mid-side EQ. So I can make a new node here. I'll go side, I'll go low cut, and I'm going to go all the way up to we'll do 208. How about that? Now, my side, there is a lot less low frequency, and I'm going to do that same kind of shelf here to give a little bit of extra clarity in the higher frequencies. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a node here that's a side, and I'm going to change this to a tilt shelf. So now what I can do is I can go up just right around where the crossover is. And now I can get a sense for this slight amount of of happiness in the mid and a lot more of the shaping here in the sides. And Dave actually brings up a good point here. I'm going to do a little bit of A/B for you guys too. A/Bing is really important in mastering. Listening to something with what you're doing and then taking that off so you can reacquaint yourself with what it originally sounded like.
Academy is an Ableton certified training center offering courses in sound design, mixing and mastering, and more. www.slamacademy.com.